Hey everyone, it's Jennifer Lively with CCPL's Tech Team, here to talk to you today about Google Chromebooks. You may have become very familiar with Chromebooks over the last few years. You've heard about them more and more, certainly now during this time of virtual learning, when many students in our county have their own Chromebooks to work on, thanks to lease agreements that are one-on-one, where every child has a Chromebook to take home with them as needed. And so you may have one in your home but not know much about it. Or you may have heard of some of the bonuses of having a Chromebook, like a fast speed and a long battery life and a price point that can be hundreds of dollars less than other computers. So with all those pluses and the prevalence of them, that's wonderful, but we also want you to know about some of the limitations that comes with owning a Chromebook and using one to take care of life's activities. So we're going to walk through some of those things today so that you'll become really familiar with using a Chromebook and to know a few things before perhaps you go out and make a purchase. So stay tuned as I walk you through all of those great things about Chromebooks today. So one of the first things you would want to understand about a Chromebook is how it differs from other computers that you may have or that you may have encountered. I'm here on Best Buy's website because I want you to see what happens if we do a little search for laptop. I'm going to click in that search bar. You'll see where I've searched already. So I'm going to click on laptop and press the enter key. And while they would love to sell me a laptop, there are some ways to limit that search. And you'll see here on the left some different categories. And so we're seeing PC laptops, Chromebooks, MacBooks, and then a separate category for Microsoft Surface laptops. So those all represent different platforms that you can have for a computer, or in this case, for a laptop that you may choose. So I just want to explain those quickly. For a PC laptop, anytime you see PC or personal computer, you're going to think of the Windows operating system. That's a Microsoft product, that Windows operating system, but we're kind of used to with a computer where you have a very traditional desktop with icons representing your programs, your software, your different settings, maybe your files. You'll have a taskbar at the bottom, that very familiar Windows start menu in the bottom left corner to help you find things on your computer. So that is a PC laptop. Microsoft also has the Surface laptops that you see there in that bottom category. So that's very traditional. Lots of people have those in their homes or use them at work. You'll see that third category for MacBooks, whereas Microsoft has the PC laptops shown there, personal computers. MacBooks are going to be Apple's product. So they'll have their own operating system where things look and work just slightly different than it would be on a PC. You can do a lot of the same things, and some might even say that the MacBooks are a more robust machine. Some of them can be, can do a little bit more, maybe a little faster, maybe even a little safer, but that's going to have a different platform or operating system to help you do those things, and that is Apple. So Chromebooks fall in a third category. And anytime you see Chromebook, you want to think of Google. So Google Chromebooks are a little different from their other two counterparts there because they are best really intended for use really with things that can be conducted, business that can be done using the internet. And so anything that you can do on the web, going to websites, using online sort of software replacement, those sorts of things, searching, of course, playing some online games, all of those things you would be able to do with a Chromebook. But if you needed to have any kind of software like, Microsoft Office with Word or Excel or PowerPoint, those kind of traditional downloads that we think of, you would not be able to do that in a traditional way on a Chromebook. You would not be able to download software to use there. Everything is done online through web apps or through the internet. So that is the big difference. So that's why when we click on Chromebooks and take a look at some of these that are sponsored and then others here too, you'll see the prices certainly do vary. I'm going to scroll through a little bit quicker. But generally you're going to find most of these are under $400. And so that would certainly not be the case for a MacBook or even a PC laptop usually. So you can see some of the name brands, the manufacturers are pretty familiar. We have Lenovo here. I think I saw a Dell earlier. There's an Acer here, Asus just below there. So a lot of these same manufacturers that make traditional PCs are also making Chromebooks. So don't let that throw you off. If you see a great ad for an HP laptop that's only $260, just read the description there very carefully and see that it is a Chromebook. Again, so it's intended for you to use that for things that can be done online only. And for many people, that is all they need. And so this would be a great machine for you. So if you made that decision to go through and actually have a Chromebook to use at home, I want to know what you're dealing with and what you're seeing. So I'm going to minimize this. And you can see our desktop here is it's really empty. There's nothing going on. So with the Chromebook, what you would do is sign in as soon as you lift the lid and get it started. It'll ask you for your credentials, and then you're signed in not only really for your use of that Chromebook and for the safety of managing that account, but also for any of your Google products. So if you have Gmail, or if you use Google Drive and its subsequent sort of online apps, then you're all signed in to be able to do that. And we'll talk through some of those things as we go through today. But I do want you to know what you're seeing here. Looks like an empty desktop, and that's certainly what's going on. But at the bottom, you have about 3 separate things to focus on. First, in the bottom left corner, that is called the launcher. And so the launcher, if you want to equate it to sort of a start menu, that's what you're going to do. You're going to launch different things. So if I click there, you can see that you can do a Google search. You can search the device for different things. For your apps that are on here, you can get into settings, anything, and you could just do a general Google search for something on the web as well. You're also going to see some recently used apps just below. But if you were to click in here, it's going to open that up a little bit more, and you could even see some recent files perhaps that you had clicked on or accessed before. Now, I'm going to click outside of that because I also want you to see what happens if you simply scroll down a little bit. Now, if you're using a Chromebook, I want you to know too that unless you have a mouse attached, and many of these Chromebooks will have USB ports and other kind of display ports and things around them, so you could attach a mouse, nothing wrong with that. But if you're using the touchpad that is part of the Chromebook, then you would need to know that some things are a little different. Of course, you could just tap to select. If I were to tap Docs right here, it would open that up for me. But if I wanted to see that right-click menu, that's sort of what we associate as a context menu, it's going to be 2 fingers there just tapping to see that sort of right-click menu. So there is no right-click. It's a 2-finger tap on that touchpad to be able to see that. So I wanted to make sure that's clear. If you have a mouse attached, you don't have to remember that. But it is a little different on the touchpad. So you're seeing the apps that have already been added here. A lot of the Google products like YouTube and the Play Store is there, so you can add new apps. You have Gmail, like I mentioned, Chrome, so you can get into all of those just fine. And you can go into the Play Store to find new ones as well. So we'll leave it at that for the launcher. But just down here, if I close that up, you also have what's called the shelf. So some of these look familiar. These are things that you have chosen to have on the shelf for easy access. If I pop back into the launcher very quickly, and for instance, if I have Google Drive here and I wanted that to be on my shelf for quick access, that 2-finger tap for me will give me that context menu, and I would be able to pin to shelf. I'm just going to give it a tap to do that. And so now that is here on my shelf, again, for easy access. So even if you're not quite sure what Google Drive is just yet, I promise that is a helpful one, and that may very well be something you would want to have there on the shelf. Here in the right corner, you're going to see your settings, things like your clock, your battery life, whether or not you're connected to the internet. You'll see things like that. And if you tap, you'll also be able to see some more settings like getting into your volume, your brightness. You can manage your network connection there. You can even sign out and shut down from there too. So very important to kind of take a look at your settings, and you can get into your full settings through that icon here as well. So just good to know that that is there and how you would access some of those things. So we have a pretty clean workspace to be able to get our work done. So if you were ready to visit a website, you could simply come down to the Chrome icon on the shelf and give that a click. For us, that's going to take us back to our laptop search there at the Best Buy site, but we can clear that and go to another site. Let's say you bank with Bank of America. We could type that in, bankofamerica.com, and press enter, and it'll take us to the site to sign in there. Of course, if this is a site you frequent a good bit, you could make that a favorite. We have our favorites icon here, and we are using Chrome just as if we were on any other computer. The operating system does not change how that browser works. And so we are able to be able to do the same tasks that we would in using the Chrome browser as we would anywhere. So we're making that nice little bookmark. I'll just say done. All right, and that's bookmarks. We can get to all of our bookmarks using our customize icon right there. We see bookmarks here. We can get to all of those different bookmarks that we see. So we have that ability, can do all sorts of things from there too. And I encourage you to set favorites and really customize Chrome to work the way you need it to. Of course, if you're up here at the top and you click on that plus sign, it's going to take you to just a new tab, which would also give you, in this case, a Google search page. So we could search from here to go somewhere new. Or of course, we could always use the launcher to do that too. Remember, it's a very similar kind of search. This one here through the launcher is just a little more inclusive because you can also search for your files and different things that you have on this particular Chromebook. I'm just going to come right back up here. And actually, I don't need to do a search at all because let's say we're ready to start thinking about taxes. And we want to come up and go to the IRS's site. So we are going to just click in the search box there, type irs.gov, and press the enter key. So I'm doing this so we can talk a little bit about downloads. So I mentioned that you can't download software onto a Chromebook, not traditional software, but there is room to download forms or different files that you might have. You may have some photos that you're downloading from a website or something like that, and that is still allowed. And so if you were doing something like that, we might be looking for forms and instructions. Here's form 1040, it's the first one I see there. And then in this case, we're looking for the PDF of that form. So it tells us that that is a PDF. When I click there, it is going to show that. And now I could fill it out here and I'd be able to save that work. If I just want to go ahead and download it, I'm looking for this symbol. That is sort of the universal icon for download. It's always good to point, kind of hover over those icons as well. Look for a screen tip like you see there for download and you'll know you're in the right spot. And if I tap, it is going to go ahead and allow me to save that into my downloads folder. So we're just going to choose save, no other changes needed. And my download manager there in the bottom right tells me that that download is complete. So I'm going to close that up. So if I close that, I'm just going to go ahead and minimize this window of our browser back to our desktop. How would I find that file again? I know that I've downloaded it. Well, back through the launcher, you do have access to files if that's something you've recently seen. You could also kind of scroll, remember, and you can see all of your apps and files is listed there too. So if I open files, that's a good one to put on your shelf if you need to do that. You'll see here on the left you have downloads. Play files are from the Play Store. So if you were downloading different apps to use on your Chromebook, much like you would on your phone or your tablet, you would see those play files there. But we are looking for downloads. And if I tap, I'll see the IRS form that we just downloaded there. We have a larger file that is a video for working on this particular project. So you can get to different image files, some videos, anything that you may have downloaded, and those files are kept here. It's just not intended for you to do a lot of work and save that work here. That's not how you would kind of work on a Chromebook. But files that originate online can be downloaded and you would have a place to store them on your Chromebook. So then how do you work if there's no software, if you aren't really creating files that are to be saved on the computer? Well, you're going to go through Google Drive to do most of that work. There are other online apps, Microsoft has theirs as well. Some people work through Dropbox. There are different ways to create and store files through the cloud, as you've probably heard of. But since you're using a Google machine, you have a Google account, it would make some sense to go through Google Drive to do that work. Remember earlier, we went ahead and pinned that Drive icon here to our shelf. So if I tap to open that, it's just opening it in our browser in a new tab. And I can see files that might already be stored there. All I really have stored is a getting started PDF for using Google Drive. So that's there. I could always refer to that. But if I wanted to create something new, I can go new. I can upload files. So if I wanted to store something to Drive that maybe I had, accessed from the internet, like that IRS form, I could upload it here to save it. Let's do that, in fact. So I'll click, I'll go into my downloads, and I'll double tap to go ahead and upload that PDF. So it's stored here, stored to my Drive. That means from any computer, as long as I sign into my Google account, I have access to that form or anything else that might be saved here. So that's one way to use Drive. But to create new content, we'll click on New, and we'll see Google Docs. Now, if you come over to the arrow, you'll see that there are blank documents and there are also templates to choose from. So I'm going to choose from a template to give you an idea of how that works. And I'm going to click on General, as others were for customized templates. And if you scroll down, you can see there's everything from essays, of course, resumes, book reports are here, lesson plans, business letters, always helpful to see that sort of standard format for those different letters. And it's not just the formats, you'll also see some nice formatting as far as different designs that are available for some of those. Oh, there's a pet resume. That could be helpful, huh? So you'll see these broken into categories. Now we're getting into work templates and all sorts of things. So that is, those are available to you if you wanted to do that. You can also just go back. I'm going to close this out for now. I'm going to go back to New, back to Docs, just kind of click there to start a blank document. And while we won't do a lot of work here, the big thing to know, thank you, have new citations there, that any work you do here is automatically saved to Drive because you're working through an online app stored in the cloud. There's no need to save it. There's no need to worry about losing it. It's automatically saved in your Drive. So I'm going to get rid of our headings to free up some of that space. And as we type, you can see that it's showing up there. We have different tools at the top where we could come back and highlight this and change the font, change the size if we'd like. I'll just click on the plus sign a few times. We can bold it. We can change the color of it. All sorts of fun options there. And we won't go through all of those different options. That is a whole other class of its own. But just remembering that your Chromebook is made for this kind of work. Anything that you would be able to do to accomplish using a website, using online tools, it's all a part of your Chrome account and what you'd be able to accomplish here. So you can do that. Now it is saved, but right up here, it does not have a name yet. So if I tap where it says untitled document, it's going to guess whatever I've typed. It's going to choose a name based on that. But instead, I'll just call this letter to Jim. And then I'm going to press the enter key. And I could keep working on that. But if you notice up here, my Drive is open in a tab and letter to Jim is still open as well. If I move back to my Drive and kind of take a look here, let me close that so you can see it's still thinking, there it is. It just jumped up to letter to Jim, kind of took note of the new name, and it's saved there. Before we even gave it a better name, it was saved here. And so all the work you do stays in your Drive. You can share that with other people. If I come back to letter to Jim, I have share, where I can send that to someone else. You can collaborate with other people. Again, that's a whole other class, but just things to think about as far as the capabilities you have. You are not necessarily limited like we were at one time by not having software that's actually downloaded. There's still going to be a few tasks that you might want to have, Microsoft Word for, Microsoft Excel for, but this online software has just gotten better and better through the years, and you can really accomplish a lot with it. So speaking of Excel, if I close out letter to Jim and I'm back here in my Drive, if I click on New, just notice that there is Google Sheets, which might be akin to Excel, Slides, which is similar to PowerPoint, and Forms, where you can create surveys, forms, things that you can send out, and even create little quizzes and things like that with it. So you can have lots of different online software there to utilize. Okay, all of that is here in my drive. So if I close it, I never have to worry about losing it. I know that it's there. And here the Chromebook, I can simply go back through the drive icon. If I were just going through Google Chrome, I could simply go to google.com drive and press enter. And then I would be able to go to drive. I'm already logged in at this case, and I'll see those same files here. So again, while you want to know that there are some limitations with a Chromebook, I also want to really highlight all the things you can do with it, especially going through Google's My Drive option and all those related apps that you have there. So all of that right at your fingertips. If we go ahead and close our browser, we'll click on the X there. When you're done with the day's work, then you could come back to your settings. You'd be able to sign out or just shut down the computer. Every now and then come over to settings and take a look for updates. It should be managing those automatically. But always good to take a look and make sure there aren't any updates pending to keep your machine happy and healthy. We'll click out of that. So I think that if you're coming from a Windows computer, there may be a bit of a learning curve as you get to know a Chromebook a little bit better, but it's a great machine to have around. Again, the price point is really nice. The battery level, the speed of use, all those sorts of things are really bonuses when it comes to Chromebooks. Well, I hope you found that helpful. And know this too, Charleston County Public Library actually lends Chromebooks out to our users. So if you'd like to try one out for 28 days, you can go to ccpl.org, check out our classic catalog, and type in Chromebook to see if there's one available near you. Otherwise, you can place a hold and get in the queue to have one of your very own, at least for a little while, to test drive before maybe you make that purchase. So as always, remember you can reach out to the tech team for any of your technology questions or needs. We're here to help at 843-805-6885 or by email at techteam@ccpl.org. See you soon.